Hi everyone, Oathbreaker Break here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Oathbreaker record over here, Rheia. Even though I haven't reviewed this band's past two albums, I sort of felt obligated to review this new one over here because on the surface it just seems like something that I would enjoy. This album just dropped on DEATHWISH Records, and the band's style blends together elements of hardcore punk, atmospheric black metal, sludge metal, and more. There's some elements of post-rock worked in there as well. Also, the instrumentals on this thing seem pretty dynamic. I mean, each song on this album is as savage and loud and brutal as it is subtle and melodic. There's some female lead vocals on this album as well, which is sort of uncharacteristic for incredibly loud, brutal music of this style, and those are occasionally performed in clean, strange harmonies, and also a lot of the songs on this thing are really lengthy, so it's got to be epic, right? I really thought this was going to be one of those reviews where it's like so easy to get through because the album basically just kind of sells itself like it's so good and everything that's great about it is like so apparent and on the surface that you don't really need to dig too deep into it because what makes it so amazing is painfully obvious. But unfortunately, at least for me, this record was such a slog to get through. Don't get me wrong, the band kicks the record off really well with the track Second Son of R, which is 5 minutes and 55 seconds of pure fury with these relentless blast beats and tremolo guitars harmonized on top of each other in a kind of ugly, distorted, dissonant way. It's messy, but it's also epic, and it's ascending to this huge, powerful crescendo, this huge climax that as I'm listening to the song, I just feel like I can't take it. It's so intense. It's pummeling my soul to bits. In some respects, it kind of reminds me of Death Heaven, but Oathbreaker's heaviness and their intensity and just how incredibly loud and grating and throat-shredding the vocals are, I think sets them apart from any other band who are doing the whole BLACKGAZE thing. Now, after all these loud guitars and drums, the band sees fit to break into these more dreary, quiet guitar passages topped with these pained, distant vocals. And this is a little trick that they employ over and over and over on this album, so get used to it. On this track, this moment is relatively short, and the band seems to build away from it pretty quickly with some very dark and heavy guitar passages. The ending on this track is pretty heavy and thrilling, definitely a standout in the track list. The next track, Being Able to Feel Nothing, feels relatively visceral and to the point too, despite it being 7 minutes long. The song never really loses its momentum at any point, though I don't think it has the most memorable writing on the entire album, and despite the fact that the vocals, in my opinion, are the most unique sounding thing in the mix, they continue to get buried over and over and over by the guitars. They just have little to no prominence on a lot of these tracks until they get to the point of these very extreme loud screams. So far everything's good, but I think the quality of this album drops off really quickly as soon as Oathbreaker just puts out this acoustic cut sort of unpredictably in the middle of the track list that I don't think they really have the writing or the vocal talent to kind of carry this soft, subtle, melodic style of rock music, or folk, if you could call it that. Certainly they have the talent and the intensity and the ability to deliver these really aggressive, rough, hard-hitting passages of hardcore and black metal and sludge metal, but as soon as they drift away from that to do something soft and really dramatic and ultra dark, for me the album just really starts to crumble. Chords that they can muster, topped with these awkward, squealing vocals. It's hard not to want to skip the track before the payoff even happens, which makes the song Begeert, which I hope I'm pronouncing correctly, a tough sell since that track is mostly consisting of those dreary guitar passages. Then we have the drony I'm Sorry for This, which to me is kind of like a bit of filler. It's like this 4-minute soundscape that is an intermission from what? I don't know. Is it the weird crying cat-like vocal harmonies all over the first third of the song Immortal, which nearly ruin the track, and these same vocal harmonies also show up on the track Where I Live? I love Caro's screams on this record. I mean, they're incredible. I think she brings an intensity in her screams that a lot of singers who also try to sound this aggressive don't quite have, but as soon as she goes to sing clean, it's like she loses most of her composure. Her performances aren't as stunning or as emotionally engaging. And I get that I guess her voice is supposed to be imperfect as she's singing in this more clean manner, but it's to the point where it just gets difficult to take seriously for me. The album ends off pretty weakly in my opinion. The track Where I Leave is kind of this one overly long post-metal crescendo that doesn't go anywhere significant in my opinion. And the closing cut seems way too infatuated with this dark, lonely atmosphere to actually execute anything interesting beyond this soul mood that the band has conjured. I don't really mind dynamic metal music. In fact, a lot of the time I prefer it. I love to hear a metal band that can stir up a bit of variety and effectively pull off being versatile. But pretty much every moment on this record where Oathbreaker wasn't mind-blowingly loud, they were mind-numbingly drab. And that's essentially my major qualm with this album. Unfortunately, I'm feeling a strong 4 to a light 5 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this Oathbreaker record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. But feel free to leave a comment. Subscribe, more videos, my website next to my head, clickety click, and have a nice day. Forever.